Hello, this video contains spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, so if you haven't watched it, please go do so before watching this. Okay, bye. Marvel is back, baby, and I mean that. After the absolute shitfest that we've been fed for the last few years, I can finally say that being a Marvel fan is paying off. Everything from TV shows, games, and especially now, movies. For context, I love Deadpool. I am one of the sick fucks that finds his comedic style very appealing. I think Deadpool 1 is great, and while Deadpool 2 may be a little bit worse, I still think it's pretty good. But I gotta say, and it may be because I watched this movie for the first time exactly 1 hour ago, but I think this is my favorite in the trilogy. I'll probably have to let this movie marinate in my brain for just a little longer before I can say for sure. But okay, I've been dying to talk about this, so I'm just gonna get straight into it. The opening scene starts with Deadpool being, well, Deadpool. But as soon as they blasted bye 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 on the speakers, in my head I thought, oh yeah, they know what they're doing. Let's address the short hairy man in the room. Some people thought bringing Logan back in any way, shape, or form would water down the impact the end of Logan had. And to those people I say, you have a lot to be worried about. I did think they were going to make jokes, but I did not think they would take an absolute shit on that movie. Much less did I expect them to fully disassemble his skeleton and use his bones as nunchucks. I can see a few Logan lovers having an issue with this, but to be honest, this is probably one of my favorite opening scenes ever. Again, recency bias is very active right now, but it's up there. It's fantastic. We then get thrown back in time to see that Wade put the katanas away for a long time. He attempts to live a quiet life where he will, quote unquote, actually matter. But he was quickly pulled out of that fantasy by the TVA, who tells him his whole world's going to cease to exist due to the death of Logan in his timeline. And so he tells them fuck you, breaks a nose, and goes on a timeline hopping montage in search for a Logan that can save his timeline. So let's talk about him. How was the Wolverine in this movie? Well, I can say with confidence that Hugh Jackman was literally born to play this character. I thought making this be the Wolverine that failed, the quote-unquote worst Wolverine in any timeline, was so good. He really gives this performance his all, and his chemistry with Ryan Reynolds is something else. In their comedic scenes, in their fight scenes, and even the heartfelt scenes. Yes, the Deadpool movie has heartfelt scenes in it. You can tell that these two are so happy to be on the same screen after waiting so many years to make this team up happen. Oh, and yes, we got a comic accurate Wolverine suit, baby. Let me also address another controversial part about this movie, the cameos. Many people thought that this movie was going to rely on a nostalgia spirit bomb in order for people to actually enjoy it. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel that way at all. I thought they handled the cameos pretty well. There wasn't any wait for applause moments, and they definitely didn't feel forced. Seeing Chris Evans as Johnny Storm again was not on my 2024 bingo card, I'll tell you that. And with Gambit being one of my favorite X-Men, if not my favorite, I can say with confidence that I was a pretty happy camper. There are plenty of other memorable cameos, such as Elektra, Blade, and well, it wasn't really a cameo since we already knew she was going to be in the movie, but you know, X-23 was pretty great. As for the heart of every Deadpool movie, it goes without saying that this movie is fucking hilarious. Probably the hardest I've laughed in a theater this year and maybe even last. I really do think that this movie, without a doubt, is the funniest Marvel movie. And of course, it wouldn't be a Deadpool movie without some cool ass fight scenes in it. I already talked about the opening scene, which is by far the best fight scene in this movie, but all the other fights are also pretty good. But I gotta say, I am very sad we didn't get to see more of this. But okay, I'll get the compliment sandwich out of my mouth. While this movie is fantastic in most aspects, it most definitely isn't perfect. It hurts me to say it, but this movie is a bit of a mess. The story structure wasn't very good, and the characters need to be fleshed out a lot more. Mainly these guys. We have a big time skip in our flashback where we don't know anything about what happened between them and Deadpool, but all of a sudden, Wade and Vanessa are broken up, which I don't like at all. The way they handled their relationship entirely was awful. The scene where she tells him about her new man that quote-unquote doesn't get her shot, that really pissed me off. You knew who he was, you knew what you were getting yourself into. I thought that was completely unnecessary. I also think there's a lot of wasted opportunity with Dopinder and Ladypool. Dopinder's hilarious, but he got replaced by Peter for no reason. He's barely in this movie, and Ladypool's on screen for a few seconds at best. She doesn't even have a relationship with Deadpool at all, which I thought was kind of stupid. They should have made Vanessa Ladypool. I would have loved to see that interaction between them. But my biggest issue with this movie by far is the villains, especially Cassandra. Before I say absolutely anything, I want to make it very clear, I am not very familiar at all with her character in the comics. But in this movie, she starts off great. They show us how menacing she is by having her absolutely ragdoll Wolverine and getting into Deadpool's head telling him he'll never matter. She really seemed unbeatable at that time. But most of all, She was pure fucking evil. They end up making a plan to take Juggernaut's helmet so they can beat her, in which they succeed, but to be honest, it felt too easy. Wait, now she's helping them willingly? I'm sorry if I'm being a complete idiot that doesn't know anything about her comic book counterpart, but I think this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. This lady does not seem like the type of villain that would spare her enemies. Not to mention she ends up trying to kill them again later on, which just makes this interaction even more pointless. And the corrupt TVA group really should have been a bit more fleshed out in this movie as well. I felt like they were just there for the big threat factor, and that's about it. I have a few nitpicks, such as I really wish they showed us rather than tell us about Wolverine's backstory through a flashback or something. I think it would have been cool to see. Other than those things, I really cannot stress enough that this Deadpool movie is really a Deadpool movie. You're probably thinking, yeah, no shit, but what I mean by that is that if you don't like the whole Deadpool shtick, then you probably won't have a very good time. Like I said, I love Deadpool, and for all the other Deadpool fans, this is an absolute positive about the movie, but for those who don't find his humor funny, well, there's a lot of it. I went with a big group of people, and one of the people in my group did not find it funny at all. So, do what you want with that information. But despite all that, I really do recommend you go watch this movie in theaters and form your own opinion on it. I think it is an absolute blast, and I think it's a huge step in the right direction for the MCU. I do think I need to watch this again a few times, but excluding all recency bias, I'm giving Deadpool and Wolverine an 8.5 out of 10.